Hey guys, just the weeds kind of taking over the garden as I pulled everything out, and everything was dying of disease. I think it was more of a blight because of the humidity and the heat. So what I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and clean up the weeds out, remove any ants. Us in Florida, we have a lot of sand. Our soil here is horrible. Really can't grow much of anything but weeds in the soil. So basically I made a lasagna raised bed is what this is. And so I layered it with different layers a couple years ago. Ants are starting to bite. Yeah, watch these ants in Florida, man. Fire ants are bad in Florida. And this is all raised bed. And so I've added in amendments over the years. I've had it for like 2 years. This will be my 4th year, I guess, having this. It does really well, usually, as long as I keep the pest and the disease down. Everything does fairly well. But what I got here is a lasagna raised bed. So just layers of stuff that when I built it up, started with cardboard and put some seaweed and dried leaves and table scraps, and then I got to the top. I started adding some soils that I had bought. I had compost that I had made and that kind of stuff, and then I've added some compost to the top soils this year and other amendments, and that's what I'm doing. I'm just preparing the soils. Oh boy, got that one on film? Yeah, bud. Fire ants to the floor. If I manage not to get bit one time, that would be a miracle here. Stinking things. You gotta move fast, you're gonna get bit, that's for sure. Them things do not play. So we gotta find their nest and then just dig it up and throw it out. That's how I do it. Because these guys like to team up with the aphids. And all right, so just cleaning out the garden bed, and I contemplated what I wanted to do this year. I was going to bake this raised bed of mine that I've grown out of for multiple years, and because of, I think, a combination between some bugs and the extreme humidity and heat here in Florida last year, all my plants, for the most part, got sick and even spread to other plants that were even outside of this garden bed. And so I was just going to bake it to kind of kill everything off and then kind of amend the soil. But I got talking to a friend of mine, and I decided to go ahead and pull out the weeds, and I'm going to lay down a layer of these oak leaves over here. I got a pile of leaves here. Okay, hold on a second. Anyway, so I've got some Happy Frog. I'm out of it now. Just mixed it in. It's a 573 fertilizer. I've got some blood meal, and I've got some organic garden tone. It is a fertilizer, and this stuff is really awesome. And I'm mixing it all in a pot. I just gave it a big good mix, and I'm about to, I just weeded up the whole garden, the whole bed. I gotta get this pot out of here. Oh my gosh. Oh. I'm about to lightly sprinkle the whole bed with this fertilizer, and then I'm going to be covering over the top of that fertilizer with some compost and topsoil, and then I'm going to be coming in and planting seed in the ground, I've had, for me personally, my best success I've had so far when it comes to gardening and growing and all that stuff has been direct sowing. And I know people can't do that everywhere they're at, especially if you're up north and you don't have enough time to put it in the ground and need to get ahead of the game. Here in Florida, I mean, I'm sweating right now. I mean, it's, you know, at the beginning of April and we're 80 degrees today. Lows in the 60s. And anyway, I'm, you know, like I said, that's been my experience. Most of it has been gardening from the soil, planting seeds. I've transplanted a few in here where I went and bought plants that were already ready to be transplanted into the soil. This year, like I said in prior videos, I've been more in the more experimental growing. I overwintered this guy, my Hungarian wax pepper, which he's doing really good. Peppers are popping up everywhere. I got my pumas over there. They're starting to bud. Got some tomatoes coming on right now too. Where are they at? Down underneath. Some tomatoes. Got a reaper here. Ghost. And another ghost. These are all just experimental. I'm growing from pots. Never grew from pots before. This is the first year I'm growing. And I am going to grow these as well. I've got some bell peppers, jalapenos, habaneros. There's another peach ghost right there. Serranos. And a few other ones. So these are all going to stay in the pots. I've got more over there that may not make it still. My Get Joe's plants are still like, they're not growing like they need to grow. But I'm going to go direct sow into the garden. I'm going to go sow. I'm going to go throw some of these leaves. Also has a layer. This is legitimate, or originally was a lasagna garden bed, or lasagna raised bed, where I layered this garden, starting with a piece of cardboard, mowing the grass, cardboard, throwing on carbon, throwing on nitrogen, back and forth, food scraps, seaweed from the ocean. I mean, you know, compost, green leaves, grass, clippings. I just layered it back and forth. Carbon, nitrogen, carbon, nitrogen. I just layered it back and forth. And then I threw a nice layer of old horse manure that I'd gotten from an old man out at a horse farm. About 4 truckloads. And I grew out of that for several years. And I've amended it off and on with, you know, adding more amendment to the top and fertilizing it and stuff like that. And this year, so I'm going to do it again after having some issues last year. And I'm hoping that the issues are not in the soil and I don't have any problems with the soil. I'm going to go ahead and fertilize the top layer of the soil before I add my amendments and my compost and my topsoil before I plant seeds into it. Anyway, guys, this is my that's my rosemary. I think it needs to be fertilized. It's not. She's looking a little thin. So anyway, but my thyme is doing really well. It's about 5 times the size it was when I first. I think it's huge. Anyway. So guys, and then after I get done seeding and the seeds start to come up, I'll be adding some of this mulch to keep the moisture in, because I do have a very sandy type of loam soil, and it dries out really fast. But it does drain really fast, so I don't have to worry about Florida flood rains. The water goes through really quick, but the thing is, it dries out. Once it dries out on me and I'm not careful, you know, I don't have enough moisture in the soils. So we have to keep that up, especially when it gets really hot. And so that's what I'm gonna be doing. Anyway, we're gonna take this guy. I don't know if I can do it with one hand or not. We're actually gonna just sift this. All over the ground. Put a nice light coat. I'll be back. I'm not gonna get crazy with these leaves and like cover it up with like a bunch of, you know, cover it up. We got some old grass clippings in here as well. So this is gonna be good. Has some carbon mixed in the soil. And we're just gonna, on top of that fertilizer, we're just gonna sprinkle this and just give it a little light coating. You can see I lightly coated it. It's completely fertilized on top. People are like, I've never seen this done before. Well, I guess it's time to get out a little bit more, but I'm just kidding. Oops, I guess I should be videoing myself, not the other stuff. Just kind of a barrier. I want to have a little bit of a barrier between the fertilized, especially with the young clippings. I don't know how much. I'm hoping that I have enough soil here in these bags. I got 30 bags of soil to make it deep enough where, you know, my seedlings will have time to grow for a little while before they actually hit some of that fertilizer. Anyway, I'll be back after I get done. You get the idea. All right, so I got all that spread lightly on there. And, you know, just maybe you don't understand, maybe you're a new gardener. You know, carbon versus nitrogen. Nitrogen's greens, can be even coffee grounds, food scraps, things like that, mixed with dry, dead material, which dry leaves, grass clippings that have dried. There is a breakdown when you bring these two together. That's like when you get underneath a tree and tree leaves have fallen. It's just the cycle that God has created. When leaves fall off the trees, they actually feed the soil nutrients. And so basically I'm putting some more nutrients by putting these leaves and grass clippings in this soil, mixed in with what's already there, fertilizers. And then I'm gonna add soils on top of this. It's gonna be give another layer of richness to the soil once it starts to break down. And hopefully it'll invite more worms and different things like that, because you want worms in your bed. It helps bring worm castings, which, you know, worms definitely help feed ecosystem within the soils, and there's definitely benefits to having worms in your, and I even bought worms before. I've bought night crawlers worms and threw them in my bed just to have them in there. And so I may buy some more this year. I don't know yet, but anyway, this is what we're doing, and we're about to start layering this bed with the compost and soils, topsoil. Well, here we go. It's a finished product. Isn't that looking beautiful? That is ready for planting. Ready for planting. I don't know if earlier in the video I used as far as compost goes, I used a cow manure compost and a mushroom compost was my compost that I used, that I blend together, and then I put a topsoil on top. And so doing it this way, I've had great success in previous grow seasons in this bed, where I did it the same way for the most part, adding down some fertilizer and then covering the fertilizer with some newly amending soil like compost and topsoils, and it has done very well. I guess my only concern is, like, if there's anything in the soils from the previous grow year that's down beneath, and if the roots get down there where the fertilizer is and just below the fertilizer and leaves where I laid that layer, hits anything that's fungal type issues, it's going to, cause any issues. But we'll have to see later on in the grow season. It's just an experiment. I wasn't even going to use this bed at all, so I'm glad that I did, and this is over with, and now I can plant some seeds. It's about 20 foot long, and it's about a little over 6 foot down at that end, and then we got a little bit longer down here on this end, about 8.5 foot across this way. So it should give me, pretty good amount of plants in here. So into this, which we'll do this on another day. I'm gonna go in, I still got tons of seeds to figure out what I'm gonna plant and go from there. And I'm gonna put all super hots in here. We're in Florida, we have a long growing season, and should be fine as long as everything goes smooth. But this year I've got a strategy for my issues that I have usually every grow season I have, because it gets so brutally hot and the bugs get so crazy down here in Florida, is I'm going to use shade cloth, for heat, and I'm gonna, I think, be getting some ladybugs to try to combat any kind of aphid issues or any other insects. Seems to be probably going to be my best success. I had a success with the plants I got across there, that I actually brought in some ladybugs and killed off what aphids I had on my seedlings, and it worked very well. And so I will probably just can carry on that situation, because sprays have not been my friend. And whether I've just did it wrong for whatever reason, I don't trust the internet, because I followed instructions and then end up burning up my plants. Almost done it every single year, getting frustrated about the bugs, and the bugs still don't die, and I end up burning my plants up. So I'm not doing it this year. I'm doing it all natural. And even though the sprays I used were all natural, but technically they're not natural. You can't drink them. So, you know, can't drink soap. But ladybugs is really, and insects, beneficial bugs are the, you know, best way to go. So anyway, guys, thanks again for watching another episode of Miller Time Family Feud Gardening. Till next time, see ya.